Welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft in the studios of our flagship station, the Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. You can join us on Civic Center TV on Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T Channel 99. Or you'll also find us in the Birmingham-Bloomfield area on Birmingham Area Municipal Access. You can also find us on Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99 on City Cable 15 of Southfield. Join us on Channel 10 in Waterford on the Media Network of Waterford, as well as on Channel 10 at 1 p.m. and 1 a.m. for live-to-tape replays on Orion Neighborhood Television out there in Lake Orion and in Orion Township. Join us on the radio in the Birmingham, Bloomfield, and Troy areas on 88.1, The Biff, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District, and find us online in a number of different places. And our Facebook pages, facebook.com/CivicCenterTV15 and facebook.com/LakesFM, as well as on CivicCenterTV.com by clicking on our Watch Live link. That will be in one of two places. If you're viewing us on your computer, top of the page, second from the right. Click on Watch Live, and there will be live for you from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, as well as all throughout the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with other original programming, as well as replays of the Megacast. If you're viewing us on your smartphone, it will be in the left margin of the screen. You'll click on the drop-down menu, and second from the bottom will be our Watch Live link. You can also watch us live every day, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, as well as archived interviews from our past shows on My Michigan TV, otherwise known as MyMy. Visit mymytv.com, where you'll be able to learn more information about My Michigan TV, subscribe for free, and learn how you can download their free smart TV and smartphone apps so you can watch free content all about Michigan from creators all around the state, all about your home state of Michigan on one direct resource, My Michigan TV. You can learn more information about all of our partnering television, radio, and web outlets by visiting CivicCenterTV.com and clicking on our Megacast link. There we have links to every single one of our partnering stations, as well as links that will take you to all of our full episodes and each individual interview on demand. Again, that is CivicCenterTV.com/Megacast. You can also view our coronavirus page at CivicCenterTV.com/coronavirus, where we have very helpful information about COVID-19 that is kept up to date by experts at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Oakland County Health Division. If you click on any of those links, it will take you directly to those resources, COVID-19 specific web pages, so you can get more information on the spread of COVID-19 in our community and our state, throughout the U.S. and the world, more information on the Omicron variant, vaccinations, booster shots, precautionary measures, how they're effective, why they're effective, when you should be employing them, and where. All that information from these direct resources, that's where you want to start. Any sort of research or further information gathering that you need about COVID-19 is from those direct resources at the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division. In addition to those resources, we also scour journalistic outlets from all across the state of Michigan daily before our show to bring you our top headlines each and every day here in Oakland County and throughout the Great Lakes state. Making news today, our top story from Bridge, Michigan. Health experts are saying the worst may be yet to come with the Omicron variant in Michigan. COVID-19 hospitalizations could rise 60% in the next few weeks, further pressuring hospitals already at a breaking point amid the Omicron variant wave, the state's chief medical executive said on Tuesday. Dr. Natasha Bagdasarian said models predict as many as 8,000 COVID-19 patients could be hospitalized by late January or early February, well above the 5,000 approximately that are now being treated. Quote, "This is a very dangerous time for us, and this is not what we want to see with cases exploding the way that they are," she said, continuing, "The prediction is among the more pessimistic, but not the most pessimistic, of models crafted by a team of researchers from around the country, including Johns Hopkins University, the University of Virginia, and the University of Southern California. While models are predictions, hospital officials across Michigan are sounding alarms about what's happening now. More patients are showing up every day with COVID-19, affecting hospitals' ability to help all patients at the same time. Hundreds of staff members are also contracting COVID-19. Quote, "It's the sheer number of people infected with Omicron that is overwhelming our resources," said Dr. Marshall Rung, Dean of the University of Michigan Health System, to reporters on Tuesday. Already, the U of M health system has canceled 250 surgeries, discontinued accepting transfers of critically ill patients, and instituted a 2-week pause on visitation. Since January 1st, over 700 U of M health staffers have tested positive, said Dr. David Miller, president of U of M Health. The system employs 30,000 employees, including 5,220 nurses, to provide care for 1,100 licensed beds in their hospital system. Quote, "This staffing shortage is the most serious we have ever seen," said Dr. Rung. Higher case rates likely to climb even higher, according to this article from Bridge, Michigan. Though evidence is growing that Omicron variant of COVID-19 is causing less severe illness, the state is experiencing unprecedentedly high case rates. Before the current surge, the state's highest rate of cases was about 80 cases per day per 100,000 people. On Monday, it hit 161 cases per 100,000 people, over double the previous highest rate. If other states' experience is a guide, the rate will soon top 200 cases per 100,000 because so far Omicron is centered in Metro Detroit and only detected in about half of Michigan's counties. Dr. Bagdasarian, the health director, and others said they believe models that forecast Michigan's current cases will nearly double from 112,500 in the past week. She and other healthcare officials continued to urge people to get vaccinated and boosted, to wear quality masks in public indoors, and avoid large gatherings. Quote, "When we look at our most pessimistic model, we're looking at about 200,000 cases per week in Michigan. And in fact, the most pessimistic model does seem to be the most accurate," she said on Tuesday in a briefing with reporters from across the state. Data compiled by the CDC shows that a quarter of Michigan hospitals have a staffing shortage. Statewide, 28% of all hospital patients are COVID-19 positive as of Tuesday. And that, of course, that number there, that metric includes not only those that came in specifically for COVID-19 related ailments, but also for other ailments where they're, of course, being tested for COVID-19 protocols and test positive as well. That full 28% does not reflect the number of people among those that are inpatients at the hospital who have COVID-19. That's all of the patients altogether that are testing positive for COVID-19, both those with COVID ailments and others as well. Officials for the state's largest health system, Beaumont Health, said last week that it was, quote, "at a breaking point," and closed quote, reporting that its numbers of patients with COVID-19 had shot up 40% in a single week. The system asked its doctors to cancel non-urgent surgeries, especially those that required overnight stays. Cancer treating and other time-sensitive surgeries went ahead as planned, however, but, quote, "if there's a total knee replacement that can wait, then we'll wait," and closed quote, said Dr. Jeffrey Fishgrund, Beaumont's chief clinical officer. Not all COVID-19 patients, however, know it. As I mentioned earlier, Dr. Bagdasarian and others have acknowledged that not every COVID-19 positive patient is in the hospital because of the virus. That full article from our friends at Bridge, Michigan, on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. On the Omicron front here in Oakland County, some news coming in yesterday from the sheriff's office via the Detroit Free Press, as Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard has tested positive for COVID-19, he announced on Tuesday. Bouchard, a Republican who won his 6th term in office in November of 2020, is fully vaccinated and has received a booster shot. He said he is experiencing a headache, congestion, exhaustion, and other aches with the virus. Quote, even though I chose to be fully vaccinated and received the booster shot, the Omicron variant was still able to catch up with me," and closed quote, he said in a release. Continuing on in that release, he said, quote, "I had assumed it was not a question of whether it caught up to me given the duties of first responder, but when. Per our protocols, I will be in quarantine, but I will continue to work remotely," and closed quote. The virus is in its fourth surge in Michigan, with health officials saying it is fueled by the highly transmissible Omicron variant. The surge is bearing down on the state, driving up cases and hospitalizations, and breaking record after record in its wake. Models suggested the surge could peak in late January or early February, as we mentioned in the previous article from Bridge, Michigan. Health officials are urging residents 5 and older to get vaccinated against the virus or get a booster shot if they've already been fully vaccinated, to wear better masks such as KN95s in indoor settings, to social distance, and to wash hands. Again, we'll have Dr. Russell Faust on with us, the medical director of the Oakland County Health Division today, to give some more details on the specifics of some of those measures, particularly the mask wearing and the suggestion of KN95s or N95s versus surgical masks or cloth masks. Of course, any mask that you wear is going to be better than nothing. but he'll give us some specifics on that. We will ask him about that when he joins us on today's edition of the show. On Monday, the state health department confirmed 617 cases of the Omicron variant in Michigan through genetic sequencing, including 93 of those cases here in Oakland County. More than half of the cases statewide are between Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties, and the city of Detroit, which of course is counted separately from Wayne County. But that is estimated to be only a small fraction of the total number of cases of the virus strain in the state. In November of 2020, Macomb County Sheriff Anthony Wickersham said he tested positive for COVID-19 and reported only having mild symptoms. A month later, Wayne County Sheriff Benny Napoleon died after a month-long battle with the virus. He was 65 years old. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office said in a release that it had been hit hard by COVID-19, with more than 170 of its 1,400 employees off work because they have the virus or were exposed to it. Earlier in the pandemic, Sheriff Bouchard ordered a regular testing protocol for employees regardless of vaccination status to keep workers and the public protected from COVID-19. That full article from our friends at the Detroit Free Press on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Lastly, Oxford high school students returned to class for the first time since the November 30th mass shooting earlier this week. Under the cover of darkness and a single-digit cold, Oxford high school student returned to class at the district's middle school on Tuesday. Both parents and a phalanx of buses dropped off the students, who were greeted by what appeared to be school officials. There was a presence, too, of the Oakland County Sheriff's Office deputies on hand to supervise. Some students wore lettered school jackets inside. Another wore a shirt that read, quote, "Everything is about us is tough," and closed quote on the back. There were two entrances students used to enter the building for the half day of sessions. It was the first day back for students after a November 30th shooting at the high school, in which 4 students were killed and 6 students and a teacher were also injured. Later on Tuesday morning, Denise Aldred Nahas was waiting to pick up her granddaughter, who is a freshman at Oxford High School. She said she was eager to learn about her spirits. Quote, "I think it was a good day. It was good that they started out at the middle school," she said, continuing, "Get used to school slowly," and close quote. Nahas said her granddaughter didn't want to stay the whole day, quote, "So I'm picking her up early. I applaud her for that," and closed quote. She continued on saying, quote, "I'm sure she was anxious. It's just very sad. It makes us all down. And I just can't believe the shooting can happen in Little Oxford. You don't think it can happen until it happens in your town," and closed quote. Oxford school officials reported an 88% attendance rate for high school students, saying, quote, "It was absolutely electric in the hallways. It was amazing," said Jill Leonard, assistant superintendent of student services. For 2 weeks through January 21st, Oxford High School and Oxford Middle School and Bridges, its alternative high school, will be on a, quote, "alternative hybrid schedule," and closed quote, at the middle school building. Superintendent Tim Throne has said, and high school students will also have half days at the middle school on Thursday and January 18th and 20th. On those days, middle school students will attend classes remotely, as they did on Tuesday of this week. Renovations to the high school are expected to be completed the week of January 17th, and the building is expected to reopen during the week of January 24th. Quote, "We hope this slow transition together at OMS will help in the healing process and ease our high school students back into a familiar academic setting," the district said in a statement about returning to classroom instruction. On Thursday, Oxford school officials reported an 88% attendance rate for high school students. Again, so last week, of course, the shooter waived a hearing in his case and will proceed to trial. His parents on Friday lost their bid to have their bond lowered, and they face a preliminary examination next month in court. That article, as well as all of our articles from today's edition of the show from around the state of Michigan, are posted on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, with links to the full articles, so you can read everything about those details, as well as the supporting materials provided by these journalistic publications all throughout the state of Michigan. And of course, while you're over on their websites, if you have the means to do so, we highly encourage you to subscribe and support local journalism that is not only keeping us very much updated on these stories, but is doing so with full details and keeping opinion out of the reporting, as news should be. That all on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as we approach a great show today. Coming up next, we will be joined by Dr. Russell Faust, the medical director of the Oakland County Health Division. He'll talk to us at 10:20 about all things Omicron variant, the the continued surge of COVID-19 cases here in the state of Michigan and more. At the bottom of the hour, Dewey Steffen, the CEO and Chief Investment Officer with Great Lakes Wealth, will join us on the show to talk more about financial planning as we are now into the new year. At 11 o'clock, we'll talk Michigan politics with Oakland University political science professor and director of its Center for Civic Engagement, Dave Dewey. At 11:20, Tracy Chirikas as well as Angela Spino-Bogota will join us from the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. And then at 11:40, we'll cap off the show talking sports, specifically the very young but surging Detroit Red Wings hockey team with MLive Media Group beat reporter Ansar Khan. That is all coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes, they stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Joining us now to talk about that and more as well is Dr. Russell Faust, the Medical Director of the Oakland County Health Division, with us once again on the Megacast. Dr. Faust, thank you for being with us.
Tyler, hello again. Thanks for welcoming me. Thanks for the introduction.
Absolutely. So let's start with where we're at in the COVID-19 pandemic, because from December 20th to the 2nd of January of this year. Oakland County's had the highest surge in COVID-19 cases that's had since the pandemic began, over 21,000 cases. So just where are we at, particularly in Oakland County, but really across the board at this point in the pandemic, with the Omicron variant being much more transmissible, albeit maybe not producing as severe of symptoms as the Delta variant?
Yeah, well, I'm glad we're starting with the bad news, because that is bad news. In the last month, we have literally doubled the number of cases that we see on a daily basis here in Oakland County. And, you know, that's, I don't think that's unique. That's pretty well statewide and pretty well nationwide. I suspect that represents the high infectious Omicron variant, although we need to understand that identifying the Omicron variant requires genomic sequencing. So when we have positives here based on our PCR or antigen testing, we send those to state, and they take anywhere from when we swab to getting the result back upwards of 2 weeks. And so we're usually a couple weeks behind based on how fast Omicron transmits. It's likely higher, more widespread than we know at, today. So we won't know for a couple weeks. Right now, the number that we're getting back from state is about, so this is from 2 weeks ago, right? Or more. The number is Omicron makes up about 2% here in Oakland County of the positive cases. The fact is, because of that enormous surge in number of cases, we suspect that most of those are now Omicron, and we'll know in a couple weeks.
We're joined by Dr. Russell Faust, the Medical Director of the Oakland County Health Division, joining us on the Megacast. On a wider scale, because the Omicron variant is spreading rapidly, not only here in Oakland County and throughout the state of Michigan, but around the U.S. and around the world, we have seen reports in other places that Omicron the Omicron cases have not been as severe as cases of the Delta variant or others. Is that something that we're finding to be the commonality of this? And with that being the case, if that is the case, then how does that impact our approach going forward from a public health standpoint? Because there's going to be greater spread. You would presume there's going to be greater spread because it's more transmissible, but the threat of severe symptoms may not be as severe.
Well, there are a lot of variables in that answer. That is, right now we have far more people vaccinated than we have had in the past, say when we're looking at Delta data. We're well over 70% across all populations here in Oakland County, and some populations over 90% vaccinated. So it's difficult to answer that question, but let me just say that you're correct. Around the world and in other jurisdictions that have experience, they're fairly well saturated with Omicron, they're reporting a less severe clinical picture. Now, what I don't want to do is give the idea that folks shouldn't get vaccinated because this is no big deal. This is still a big deal. That is, the number of people that are being hospitalized is enormous. All of our hospitals are saturated right now. Many are above census. That is, their emergency departments are in so-called overflow, where they have beds in the hallway or even people on ventilators that are in the emergency department, not up in the ICU where they really should be. So let's not downplay the severity of this Omicron wave. However, I need to stress that if you're fully vaccinated plus have had your booster, your immunity to even Omicron is optimized. And we really need to get that message out. Everybody needs to be optimized, maximize your immunity. Because even if Omicron won't be the last variant for SARS-CoV-2, there are more coming. Every active infection generates more mutations. Every active infection produces more variants. And if those variants have mutations through, for example, the spike protein, the higher your immune level, the more of the antigenic sites you recognize on spike protein, the more likely you are to remain healthy when you do become infected with Omicron or the next variant. And right now, if you're maximally vaccinated, even if you get infected, a so-called breakthrough, it will keep you healthy, out of the hospital, off a ventilator, and alive. And the vast majority of people that are being hospitalized due to COVID-19 infections right now are unvaccinated. And that was the case 6 months ago. It's still the case. I check on, I call around to the hospitals in county on a fairly regular basis here and ask that question. The folks that have breakthrough infections, that is, are fully vaccinated and boosted, who are hospitalized, fall into basically one big category, that is, they're elderly with comorbidities, or the other category is they're immunocompromised, either from disease process or from medications treating disease. So the vast majority, again, are unvaccinated.
We're joined by Dr. Russell Faust. He is the medical director of the Oakland County Health Division, joining us on the Megacast. You can learn more information about the spread of COVID-19 as well as COVID-19 resources, precautionary measures that you can take at your business, at your home, and out in the community, as well as information on getting vaccinated, as well as your booster shots, by going to civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Oakland County link on our coronavirus page. That's civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Right at the top of the page, we have links to Oakland County, the state of Michigan, and the CDC resources. And so, Dr. Faust, we continue to get reports from our hospital systems of their continued overwhelming battle with COVID-19 and the ways that it's not only affecting treatment of COVID-19 in their hospitals, but of other acute medical issues or severe medical issues like heart attack or stroke or major injuries or even minor injuries that come into their ERs or come in other ways. And what we're also seeing now, especially with the more highly transmissible Omicron variant being in play, is more hospital employees are having to leave the space because they become infected or they themselves become ill due to COVID-19. Just today, we had a report from the Detroit Free Press. Beaumont Health, 430 of its 33,000 staff are out. Spectrum Health on the west side of the state, 766 of its 31,000 staffers. Henry Ford, also locally here in Metro Detroit, 989 or 3% of its roughly 30,000 employees are out. So with that being the case, more people in the hospitals because of COVID-19 and because of other issues, people unable in those cases, while these hospitals are being pragmatic about taking care of the most present issue being COVID-19 and those most severe health issues. And then on top of that, having hospital employees, medical officials that are on these front lines also having to bow out because of COVID-19. Just how much more severe of a situation does the spread of more highly transmissible variants like Omicron or maybe others that will come along after Omicron, how much more of a strain does that put on our public health systems and our private health systems' abilities to prevent this pandemic from becoming more deadly than it already has been?
So in other words, just how bad is it? Yeah. How bad will it become? It is bad right now. I will say this though. We met on this topic nearly 2 years ago now, Tyler. Yeah. I didn't think we'd be here having this conversation 2 years later. But the good news is that compared to a year ago, say, or a year and a half ago, right now when folks need to be hospitalized for COVID-19 complications, the hospitals are so much better at managing them. That is, your risk of fatality is less than half of what it was a year or a year and a half ago. That is, we have medications now. We have the monoclonal antibodies that are still effective. We have vaccines that are keeping people healthier. We have various oral antiviral medications now that are being pushed out. So, I think that's the good news. I did want to kind of branch off on emphasizing this one thing. The fact that so many people, especially in, well, everybody, but it's affecting our hospitals, our healthcare systems, our staff are becoming infected. The fact is, they're not becoming infected while they're wearing masks on the job. They're becoming infected when they're out and about. Now, I'm sure you've recognized this when you're out of the store. You may be the only one in a mask. I certainly am when I'm out with my family, and we'll be the only ones in a large store in a mask aside from the employees who are required to mask. Masks work regardless of what variant we're discussing here. That is, masks still work for Omicron. Masks work. Distance still works. You know, we've learned enough. There are no big secrets here. There's no rocket science involved here. We know we have the tools to keep everybody healthy. We've got great vaccines, boosters. We've got monoclonal antibodies and oral antivirals, but we have masks, and these will always work. And, you know, I will say this. There are some things being circulated on, I won't name the sites, but social media right now saying that cloth masks and surgical masks no longer are effective, and that's absolutely false. They're very effective, 70 to 80% protective. So people need to mask, get everybody vaccinated, and we'll all be safer and we'll get through this pandemic.
We're joined by Dr. Russell Faust. He is the medical director of the Oakland County Health Division, joining us on the Megacast. And so, yeah, I wanted to touch on the mask situation, because we have seen those reports come in, as you mentioned, that the reports that certain kinds of masks that we've been using, cloth masks, surgical masks, are ineffective, are false. But we have heard other reports that while those masks are better than nothing, particularly with the Omicron variant, that other masks such as KN95 or N95 masks may be better at preventing the spread of the Omicron variant. Is that the case? And if so, why with this variant is there that difference?
So this variant and all SARS-CoV-2 variants are transmitted by respiratory droplets. That hasn't changed. The physical size and shape of the virus hasn't changed. So all the variants are still transmitted physically in the same way. However, some of the variants are better at infecting people and better at increasing blood levels of virus, so the level of virus that we shed is higher. But they're still transmitted by respiratory droplets, meaning masks are still effective. Now, with regard to the types of masks, surgical masks, surgical masks, actually there we go. And, cloth masks, these are still very effective. 70 to 80% protective. N95s and KN95s are 90+% protective. They're just certainly not as comfortable to wear as a plain surgical mask or a multi-layer cloth mask. But masks are very protective. That's the number one tool that we have: masks, distance, vaccination.
Well, Dr. Faust, we appreciate having you on. Anything else that we should be keeping in mind on the COVID-19 front going forward at this moment in time?
Yeah, we're still testing here in Oakland County. We're still vaccinating. November and December, we were out vaccinating children at the schools. We were in 15 different schools. Folks that are interested in being tested or being vaccinated, call our nurse on call number 800-848-5533. Thanks so much, Tyler.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
We may come from different organizations,
But we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
the leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior.
These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance.
They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. You can learn more about our show by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll be able to find links to each and every one of our partnering television, radio, and other media outlets, and find all of our individual interviews and every full episode of the Megacast on demand. Again, civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Joining us once again is the CEO and Chief Investment Officer of Great Lakes Wealth, Dewey Steffen, back with us on the Megacast. Dewey, thank you for being with us again.
Tyler, great to see you. Happy New Year to you and all the viewers.
Yes, you as well, Dewey. And so, of course, when we have you on, one of the services that your business provides is financial planning services. We ask this every time, but it's good for people that are tuning into the show for the first time or hearing you or hearing of your services for the first time. What does a financial planner do that is so helpful to individuals and to groups of people?
Sure. Well, a financial planner would be in a similar sense as your doctor, or perhaps your lawyer or your other professional. So we call it financial health. And so a financial planner will help assess your financial health, will help you develop a plan to improve your financial health, and then also to continue to review and continue to have the checkups and continue down that path to financial health and prosperity.
And so who needs a financial planner? If someone's out there and they're evaluating their finances, whether they're just starting their career or whether they're approaching retirement, who can use the services of a financial planner?
Yeah, I believe everyone can. When you're starting out, your needs are different than when you're approaching or into retirement. Absolutely. That's the same thing with seeing a doctor. You see a doctor from the time you're born and have wellness checks. And so the same thing with your financial situation. If you don't have the assets or the complexity to hire, a top-notch financial planner, that would be like, finding and needing a neurosurgeon. You don't need one just for your annual checkup. It's when something is really going to become complicated or complex. So without that, you can definitely just even go online. Our website, greatlakeswealth.us, has a ton of calculators, a ton of white papers, tons of educational tools. So whether it's our site or any of those sites out there, everyone can use a financial planner for sure.
And you mentioned earlier, you made the analogy of financial health and your services kind of being as a doctor of sorts for your finances and making plans, as people make plans to better their health. They also want to be making plans to better their financial future as well. What are some steps that people should be taking as they either begin to make those financial plans for their future or even as they're continuing to modify and adjust their financial plans over time?
Well, the first thing that we always say is start now. So rather than wait and do it later, start now. And then in terms of planning, there's different types of financial planning. We here at Great Lakes Wealth use what we call goals-based planning. Another one might be comprehensive planning, but we say goals-based planning, meaning pick your goal and then make a plan for it. So a family or an individual may have multiple goals: a goal to pay off their house, a goal to fund college, a goal to have a retirement that you desire. So create your goal and then start with the goals-based plan. And then after that, we go with the very simple what, where, when, how, and why. So just define each of those. That'll help you define the plan and then, or the goal, I should say, and then from there you can create your plan.
And so, like many other goals that are set, a lot of people will begin to really execute on those goals on January 1st of a year. It's their New Year's resolution. They just want to start with a clean slate. They want to, or even they just want to have an easily tangible way to keep track of their goals. In terms of financial goals, what are some common financial goals that either you encourage through your business at the beginning of the year, or that you commonly see your clients undertake as they are re-upping on their financial goals at the beginning of a new year?
Yeah, Tyler, that's a great question. What do you do to start the year for your financial plan? And the first one is to either create your plan or review your plan. So the first one is to, again, create or review your plan. And then after that, you want to deal with debt. So again, financial resolutions, New Year resolutions, deal with debt. So either restructure your debt, reduce your debt, or eliminate debt. There is bad debt and there is good debt. So understand that and deal with debt. And then next is understand about retirement or savings or investing. Right now, we say after you deal with debt, you should understand that cash is trash. And so a lot of advisors, a lot of planners will say, save for retirement. If you just put money away, you're not going to get to retirement. You need to invest for retirement. You need to invest for success. So deal with debt and then invest for success.
We're joined by Dewey Steffen. He is the Chief Investment Officer and CEO of Great Lakes Wealth. You can learn more information and get in contact with them by visiting their website at greatlakeswealth.us. And so as people are are going through their goals for this year financially and are working toward those goals or working on improving those goals. Much like a New Year's resolution, it can be easy for people to lose track or to lose momentum. And so in the financial sense, often those benchmarks are revisited month to month, whether it be billing or whether it be contributions you're making in your investments or to your 401k or whatever the case may be. What should people be doing each month to reset their financial mindset going forward and to keep up on their financial goals?
Tyler, you are hitting on some great questions and some great topics today. I appreciate that. On a monthly basis, it's really simple, right? One that everyone can do is pay off your credit card balance every month. So you'll get your statement and you'll see your balance. Pay it off. So for a monthly goal, that's one. The next one, and you hit on it, is invest for your retirement. So you have your 401k or 403b, you have your IRA or your Roth IRA. So do an auto deposit into each of those plans through your employer. You do it through payroll, and then you can do your Roth IRA or your traditional IRA through your bank auto draft system. Set it up. It automatically happens monthly, and then boom, set it and forget it, and you're on your way.
We're joined by Dewey Steffen, CEO and Chief Investment Officer of Great Lakes Wealth, joining us on the Megacast. And of course, New Year means that we are in a new tax year as well, as now going forward, all finances in 2022, of course, will apply to 2022 taxes, not necessarily to your 2021 taxes. And so with that being the case, as people are setting themselves up for gaining financially throughout the 2022 year, they also need to continue to prepare themselves for tax season for the 2022 tax year. Of course, that will be those taxes will be due in 2023. What are some common mistakes or some common, for lack of better terms, landmines on the tax front that you often see people run into early on in the year as they are quickly scrambling to get their goals moving forward, or that just slips by as they're focusing on other things after January 1st?
Yeah, great question. So you said landmines to consider before the April 15th tax deadline. And so again, sometimes as you're preparing your plan or executing your plan, you might be going too fast. So we do at the same time say, set it and forget it. We also say, slow down and be prepared for what's ahead of you. And as it relates to taxes, you don't know what may be coming. I think a lot of people, because of last year and the response to COVID by the government and the other regulatory bodies, we all maybe received a tax rebate that we normally didn't, or we had less to pay than we normally did. We even had a week longer, I think, or a month longer to pay the taxes last time. So anyway, the main topic here is don't make any big purchases until after you do your taxes, so you know where you stand. The landmine would be making a big purchase or doing something financially in one direction that you have to undo or put you backwards once you realize what your tax situation is.
Yeah, especially because a lot of those additional benefits that were provided by the government as pandemic relief to help people with their bills, to help people with their finances as we continue through the crisis, a lot of those were not necessarily going to be taxed in 2021, but we're going to be taxed in 22 or in 23. And so when that bill comes due to ultimately pay a part of that back to the government, you want to make sure that you're ready to do so, and it's not a surprise. You don't want any surprises with your finances ever. That's never good news, especially when it involves the IRS.
Agree 100%. This year is going to shake a few people up, no doubt about it.
So at the end of 2021, the markets have been down for days, and some days in 2022 already they've rallied back, and in a couple of cases in record numbers as well. What is your best advice on people that are either entering the market or are exploring, maybe being a little bit more aggressive in the market going into 2022?
Well, I said it earlier, Tyler, and that is cash is trash. So people, when they look to invest in the market, they typically are hesitant for two reasons. One is it's too high, or two, I don't understand it. And so A, you need to understand it, and B, you need to recognize what is high or what is low. As you said, there's been volatility lately. When we say volatility, we mean maybe drops in the market. The market has not had a 10% correction in over a year, actually over 18 months, right? So because of that, we're going to expect the market to drop at some point. So guess what? Early in 2022, it has. And so this is an opportunity for people to invest for success. So for 2022 at Great Lakes Wealth, our major theme is volatility creates opportunity. We have not had much volatility, so you just have to get in and let it ride. Well, now with volatility, you can try to pick your moments if you want, talk to a professional, and you can dollar cost average in. So there will be opportunities when the market goes down. Don't panic and sell. Use that to panic and buy.
And so we're joined by Dewey Steffen. He's the CEO and Chief Investment Officer of Great Lakes Wealth. You can get in contact with them and learn more information on greatlakeswealth.us. Recently, I was listening to the radio, and they were talking about inflation. And we've continued to hear that as a buzzword and as a topic of discussion, as an issue going forward financially, not only for individuals, but also for the U.S. in general. And they had mentioned in that discussion that often the way that inflation is countered and resolved is through a recession. And so with that being the case, on the investment front and on the savings front, particularly for retirement, as people have seen over the past couple of years, the market fluctuate. Maybe some of their investment portfolio has experienced a boom and they want to be a little more aggressive with that, but they also need to be cautious because at some point the market is going to adjust itself. How do you advise your clients in these financial times to adjust their strategies in investment and in saving, but also continuing to be cautious, knowing that the market that we're in right now is not quite stable and at some point it's going to have to adjust itself?
Tyler, a great question, a very complicated and complex answer, but we will try to make it short and sweet. First thing I'm going to do is give a shameless plug to our podcast called What Do We Do? It comes out every other Wednesday, and we just did an episode last month about inflation. And there are 3 ways that you combat inflation by your actions, and there are 3 ways that you can combat inflation with your investments. So with that, again, you can go to our website or YouTube or Spotify or Apple iTunes, and you can check out our recent podcast on inflation and how to not just survive it, but thrive during it. So we'll start with that. And then to answer your question more directly, Tyler, you just need to understand, again, inflation means prices of things go up. So you also need to have the prices of your things go up, or you need to not buy so many of those things that the prices are going up. So again, just pay attention to what things cost and also pay attention to what you're investing in so that your investments are keeping up with the cost of those goods.
And then more and more over the past several months, certainly in 2021, it became kind of the talk of the town on the financial front is cryptocurrency and other forms of crypto as well, such as NFTs. Do you have any advice for people that are exploring those markets for investment or just out of curiosity here in 2022?
Yeah, sure. Also, we did a podcast, actually 2, on this topic, Tyler, and then actually the broad category is digital assets. It used to just be known as the Bitcoin category, and then there were other coins that came out, so they called it the cryptocurrency category. Well, now, as you touched on, there are NFTs. There's actually this whole crazy thing that people are talking about called the metaverse. So we won't get into all that, but with it, it's called digital assets. At Great Lakes Wealth, we actually have a digital assets portfolio where we invest in these themes and we discuss them. So our website has some information. We have a white paper. We have 2 podcast episodes discussing it. But yes, it's a complicated subject, but it's also something that is extremely relevant today. And I'll leave your watchers with this. Don't put more than 5%, 0 to 5, maybe 3 to 5 is out the one. I don't even know who the people are, but again, don't get in over your head. It's an extremely volatile asset class. It's extremely brand new, and it's extremely difficult to navigate. So you can look to invest in cryptocurrencies, NFTs, blockchain investments, etc. But please be very careful. And we also say here that if you don't know about something, again, don't invest in it. So hire a professional that knows about it to invest in it, or get your own information and your research done to then succeed in your investment.
We're joined by Dewey Steffen, CEO and Chief Investment Officer with Great Lakes Wealth. Dewey, another minute or so with you before we'll say goodbye today. Any other advice or anything else you'd like to say at this time to our audience?
I would just like to say that, again, Happy New Year to everyone. It's 2022, and this is a year where you should be healthy, wealthy, and wise. So certainly pay attention to what's happening on the front with coronavirus and the variants, but also any other of your health matters. You know, make sure you eat healthy and exercise and stay healthy. And then financially, again, try to invest for success and manage your wealth. And then last but not least is certainly be wise. We always say MGD, make good decisions. So this year, whether it's estate planning or just, you know, things going on in your personal life, be wise, make good decisions, and hopefully everyone out there has an amazing 2022.
And hopefully you as well. Thank you so much, Dewey.
Thank you, Tyler. We'll see you again.
We'll see you soon. Dewey Steffen, CEO and Chief Investment Officer with Great Lakes Wealth. You can learn more information and get in contact with them for their services and all their calculators and other great financial information on their website, greatlakeswealth.us. That's also where you'll be able to find more information on the podcast he mentioned, What Do We Do? The What Do We Do podcast airing every other Wednesday morning on Apple, Spotify, Podbean, and everywhere else that you get your podcasts with Dewey Steffen and a good friend of the show, Brooke Allen, also from WWJ, co-host on that podcast. We're going to take a quick break on your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. On the other side of the break, we'll kick off the 11 o'clock hour talking about the very complicated 2022 calendar year in Michigan politics with the director of the Center for Civic Engagement and political science professor at Oakland University, Dave Dewey. That is coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council,
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
Most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
A rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Joining us now is a professor of political science at Oakland University and also their director of the Center for Civic Engagement. Dave Dewey is with us once again on the Megacast. Dave, thank you for being with us.
It's my pleasure, Tyler. Nice to see you.
Good to see you as well. And so big news politically recently here in the state of Michigan is the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission passed its legislative maps for both state Congress as well as federal positions as well. Of course, met with controversy and met with opposition, as lawsuits have already been filed or will continue to be filed in that case. But for you, looking at that process and at the maps that have been redrawn, what is your biggest takeaway so far from the redrawn maps here in the state of Michigan?
Well, I think that there are a number of takeaways. One is the number of intra-party contests that we're probably going to see that are going to be really competitive in the summer during the primary season, right? We're going to have two, it looks like, incumbent matchups. Representative Stevens and Representative Levin running in the same district in the Democratic primary on the east side of the state. Representative Upton and Representative Huizinga running in a Republican primary on the west side. And there'll be some competitive primaries, no doubt. Maybe most notably over here on the east side is maybe that 10th district. It looks like there's a number of candidates that are potentially throwing their name in the ring, or who already have thrown their name in the ring, especially on the Republican side. So that's one. I think controversy is another. And there are a number of controversies sort of surrounding the maps for either the state House, the state Senate, or the U.S. House of Representatives. Certainly the lawsuit that's been filed by some representatives in the city of Detroit alleging the maybe disenfranchisement's the wrong word, but alleging a negative impact maybe on African-American voters in the city of Detroit and the dilution of their votes. We'll see how that shakes out in court. I think you'll see other lawsuits filed. This is going to get very litigious. With that, there is some uncertainty around this whole process. And as we start to see some things shake out with candidates announcing that they're going to run in certain districts, there still is uncertainty there whether or not the maps hold muster or pass muster in the courts.
And so if the courts do decide that the maps as drawn are inadequate because of violations of the Voting Rights Act or because of the disadvantages that they put certain populations at politically based on these maps being redrawn, that kind of in some ways resets the clock, because now you have the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission that has to go back and modify those maps. But at the same time, we are quickly approaching the primary season. How are candidates going to be preparing for that kind of a scenario where, like you said, they could be planning to run in one district right now in a very competitive race, and that might not be their final district down the line? At some point, the clock's going to have to run out, and these maps are going to have to be final.
Sure, and the way the constitutional amendment was written, so the law of the land, right, is that these maps, while approved by the commission at the end of December, they're not in effect until March, right? And then we've got the filing deadline that comes in April. So, right, that's really maybe one of the dates to really watch. But at the same time, this is really uncharted territory. We don't know what is gonna happen or could happen. If prior court cases in other states are a model to follow, you could have the courts kick it back to the commission, and depending on when that happened, would that 45-day comment period that the commission had to follow at the end of the calendar year 2021 be back in effect? We don't know. Would they ask for relief from the courts? Would the courts impose their own maps that they would draw? It's really, you throw your hands up in the air and say, who knows?
Yeah, that creates a really a really interesting but also really concerning scenario here in the state of Michigan as we are approaching as we're approaching the point where these maps would have to be official in March for that filing deadline in April. Although I would expect that this would be resolved well before then. The courts are understanding of that situation. Certainly the commission would be understanding of that situation too, knowing that these deadlines are coming up, and at some point we will reach the point of no return where these elections have to be able to move forward.
Right, and we don't know where that is or what the mechanism for that will be, but at some point, yeah, we're going to have to move forward, and really the question becomes, how do we do that? And that's going to be up to the courts to decide.
We're joined by Dave Dulio, professor of political science at Oakland University, also their director of its Center for Civic Engagement as well. And so with these redrawn maps, as you said, lots of competitive races potentially coming in the primaries on both sides of the aisle later on this year. In some places, however, such as in the Lansing area in District 7, U.S. Representative Alyssa Slotkin of Holly said that she's planning to move in order to run for re-election. Or may move in order to run for re-election. Do you expect that as we get closer to that filing deadline, and as to our political parties here in the state of Michigan and certainly federally on both sides of the aisle, that we may have more candidates attempting to do something like that, where they're moving out of these more competitive districts, where they'd be going up against other members of their own party, where they could potentially have two members of the same party that were previously in Congress at the state or federal level deducted to one by racing the other one out of a position. Do you expect that we could have more people potentially moving as we approach that filing deadline in order to put themselves in other districts that may be more competitive for them without potentially being a detriment to their party?
Sure. I think that's we've already seen some of that. Representative Slotkin, as you mentioned, has said that she's going to move into that new 7th district that's based, that's got Lansing at its core, but is a Republican-leaning district. One of the current state House members has said that he's going to run in that district against her on the Republican side. Representative Dingell is not going to run where she lives at the moment. She's going to move into a new district to accommodate that. But you can also see folks who don't live in a particular district running in that same district. There's no law at the congressional level in Michigan. There's no law that says you have to run in the district where you live. So, for instance, there's rumblings that John James may run in that new 10th district that's Macomb County based. He's, of course, from the Farmington area, but that's completely legal in the state of Michigan, where you don't have to, and that's been the case many times in the past. So it's going to be very interesting to watch how all of this shakes out over the course of the next weeks and months.
We're joined by Dave Dulio, professor of political science at Oakland University and also the director of its Center for Civic Engagement, joining us on the Megacast. And so the whole point of this Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, when it was enacted by the people by vote in 2018, was to take the drawing of the maps out of the hands of particularly politicians who are in the party in political power in Lansing every 10 years and put it more into the hands of the people to create a more egalitarian process. The process has been completed or almost completed in this sense. The maps have been drawn. Looking at how the maps are currently drawn right now and taking that as gospel going forward until further notice, based on how those maps have been drawn, where do you see the potential for the political landscape in the state of Michigan that's currently dominated on the legislative side by Republicans going forward? Is this a more competitive state now for Democrats at the legislative level after the redistricting?
Well, we'll see, right? I mean, I think that's the what many people were looking for as the commission was doing its work. We'll see, right? Because what we've heard so far is the analysis that's been done is that more districts are competitive or favor Democrats now than used to. And I'm gonna say that we'll have to wait and see on that, because the data that's been used for that analysis, at least what I've read and seen, is having used data from 2020, which of course was a presidential year. And any good campaigner will tell you that when you're trying to predict election outcomes, you have to use like elections. And 2022 is obviously not a presidential year; it's a midterm year. In addition, so that's one thing, right? The midterm year versus presidential year. Midterm years always see lower voter turnout. So the mix of voters who will show up in 2022 is likely to be very, very different than it was in 2020. Adding to that is no Donald Trump on the ballot. Certainly no Joe Biden on the ballot, obviously, given it's a midterm election. But the other factor is the political dynamics that will be at work when that election happens. And right now, it looks like it's going to be a pretty tough year for Democrats. So what does that do to the mix of voters that turns out? Republicans are likely to be enthused with the prospects of reclaiming control of the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate. We don't have a Senate race here in Michigan, but those new maps might put some juice into the Republican side to go and try to take some of those democratically held seats away. And both at the state House and state Senate level, plus the congressional level. So, we could see a very different result than what is being discussed or what's being assumed that we'll see after the 2022 cycle ends.
We're joined by Dave Dulio, professor of political science at Oakland University. He's also the director of its Center for Civic Engagement as well. And so, Dave, we have a few more minutes with you. I want to give you some time to talk about any upcoming events now that we are off in the new year that may be upcoming over at the Center for Civic Engagement that people may be able to join in on and begin a very big political year here in the state of Michigan with some productive conversations about our politics.
Sure. Thanks, Tyler. We're going to continue our office hours series where we highlight Oakland University faculty members, faculty experts on key issues. So in the beginning of February, we're going to do one on how the U.S. is responding to an uncertain global economy and talk about things like inflation, supply chain, gas prices, right? Those sorts of things, as well as the U.S. response to it. In early March, we're going to have a politics-focused discussion and, again, take up things like redistricting, evaluate where that is at the time, talk about the governor's race in 2022, those congressional races that you and I talked about. And then in the beginning of April, we're going to do one on mental health entering year 3 of COVID. As you know, as everybody knows, mid-March, we are going to go into the 3rd year of this pandemic, and we're going to evaluate sort of what we can do from a mental health perspective in dealing with COVID, dealing with this pandemic as we continue to struggle with it. We've got a couple other irons in the fire that we're not ready quite yet to talk about, but I hope you'll have me back and I can unveil those for you.
We certainly will have you back to talk about all those upcoming events and to continue to analyze a very important political year here in the state of Michigan as we're in 2022. It's a midterm election year. We've got the primaries coming up in just a few months, and then, of course, the gubernatorial election, also a big factor as well. Dave, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Tyler.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary. And And if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you.
Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation.
Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council.
As partners working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is a source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. You can learn more information about our show by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our Megacast link, where you'll find all the information you need to know on our partnering television, radio, and web outlets, and find all of our full episodes and each individual episode and each individual interview on demand. Again, that's civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Joining us now from the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities is Angela Spino-Bogota, as well as Tracy Chirikas, once again joining us on the show. Thank you both for being with us.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate having you both on. So on your homepage for the coalition, the headline reads, "Did you know over 2,000 teens begin abusing prescription drugs every day?" Can you talk to us about the issue of prescription drug abuse and misuse and the different ways that may begin, particularly for these kids? They're the process of beginning to abuse these drugs and eventually maybe even becoming addicted to these drugs?
Well, if you don't mind, Angela, I'll take the lead on this. Sure. I think one of the interesting statistics on this is often our youth are prescribed due to a medical condition, and they are taking their medications as prescribed until it crosses over to this level of dependency on that medication. Why are we very honed in and concerned about this is there are so many pill pressings going on out in our communities. We need to be aware as a community that there are individuals illicitly pressing pills that look identical to those pills that we can get from the pharmacy. The problem is those pills are not manufactured in the pharmaceutical environment, but rather someone's kitchen, basement, garage, what have you. And so they're heavily adulterated. And that is truly what we are seeing in our communities right now is fentanyl adulterated prescription lookalike pills. Some of the things that we need to think about when it's concerning our youth is think about our own mindsets and behaviors. If I'm borrowing medication from a friend of mine, for example, because today I wound up with a migraine headache, I'm not asking my best friend what that chain of custody was with that medication. There's that unspoken trust. And with our youth, that is occurring as well. They have an unspoken trust and level of understanding where they believe their friends would never choose to harm them. And quite frankly, maybe their friend isn't even trying to harm them. So that is something that we really need to be aware of where our youth are concerned.
And so in terms of prevention, of course, we always hear about making sure that for adults in the home that they're properly storing these prescription drugs, that they're locking them away to get them out of reach of children that may either get to them out of curiosity if they're younger kids, or maybe seeking them out for misuse or abuse reasons if they're older, or vice versa. But what other preventative measures or intervention measures should be taken in the home if a parent is concerned that their kid may be either becoming dependent on these prescription drugs or may even be abusing these prescription drugs before it eventually gets to a point where they may be seeking pills from outside of those that are obtained through medical means?
Thank you. That's such an important question. I think one of the greatest things we can do as parents is, yes, our youth can read, yes, they can follow instructions. However, with prescription medications, these are highly dangerous. We need to control how they are being administered. So when your loved one starts reaching out because their pain is breaking through sooner, rather than the time prescribed on that bottle, that is a first indication that a dependency may be starting to form in your loved one's scenario. So if that is the case, then you should be talking to your doctor rather quickly that, hey, my loved one's pain is breaking through sooner, yet you've prescribed it for every 3 hours. Now it's breaking through every 2 hours. And we know because of tolerance and the way opiates build up in the body, that tolerance builds up just as quickly.
And so let's bring in Angela Spino-Bogota. She is a certified prevention specialist and peer recovery mentor as well with the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. Now, I mentioned before Tracy's previous comment, intervention. On the intervention front, if a parent particularly is concerned that their kid may be becoming more dependent on these drugs, or that they may be increasing their tolerance abnormally to these drugs, maybe even misusing or abusing them, obviously having a familial intervention or having some support system there that's helping to prevent misuse or abuse from becoming chronic is critical, but it's also a very sensitive matter that you want to approach in a way that, of course, is welcoming and is friendly and is supportive, but also needs to be done in a manner that is deliberate as well. How do you suggest that parents or families of people that may be misusing or abusing drugs approach making those initial interventions to help their loved one either escape the burden of drug use and misuse, or to help them if they are addicted to these prescription drugs.
I'm so glad that you brought that up because having an addiction is something that has so much stigma that's attached to it. So what I encourage people to do is, number one, seek out professional help. This isn't something that you want to approach alone or something that you want to do without the help of medical professionals, especially if somebody has already developed a substance use disorder. And it's something that oftentimes people think is attached to some sort of a moral failing, but really what it is it's a complete hijacking of the thinking process. And, it affects the brain's reward system in a way that, completely hijacks that thinking process. So what somebody would normally do when they're not using, you might see as a symptom during substance use. And so some of the symptoms might appear as though they're negative behaviors. However, it doesn't mean that that person is a bad person. So I highly encourage people to reach out for professional help. And I encourage them also to learn as much about a substance as they can. And I always say, like, non-judgmental help, right? For me, having that conversation, if a parent were to come up to me and say, listen, I want to help you. I'm not judging you. I'm here for you. We're not going to necessarily talk about the last time that you used. We're just going to figure out a way to get you some help, so yeah.
And what's great, too, is that an organization like yours, the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, also provides support groups and information on providing that support in a way that is helpful and is sensitive to both the family member that's trying, or family members that are trying to help intervene in their loved one's substance use, misuse, or abuse, as well as the person that may be dealing with that misuse or abuse. And one of those programs is Shatter the Stigma and Family Support Meetings, which are held via Zoom every Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. and Wednesday morning 10 a.m., as well as Thursdays at 7 p.m. Angela, we'll start with you. Can you talk about what goes on in these meetings and who they can be beneficial to as people are either themselves battling addiction or have a loved one that may be battling addiction?
Absolutely. So I will let Tracy take the family side of things on Thursday evenings, but the group on Tuesday mornings from 9:30 to 11 o'clock is Smart Recovery, and it is for the family side as well. But Smart Recovery is a science-based program to help people manage their recovery from any type of addictive behavior. So we are covering substance use, but we could be talking about anything like alcohol, nicotine, gambling, eating, self-harming, those types of behaviors as well. And Smart Recovery is based on a 4-point program. So it basically is helping people to decide if they have a problem. It builds and maintains motivation. It helps to cope with urges and temptations. And then the third point is managing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. And then finally, helping people to live a balanced life. And it's based off of cognitive behavioral tools. And those cognitive behavioral tools are based off of a workbook that are available to participants within this group. And one of the things that we found through the COVID crisis is that we're able to facilitate these groups online and make them more available to people who might not be able to drive to get to these groups. And so we're able to do that on Tuesday mornings at 9:30.
We're joined by Angela Spino-Bogota as well as Tracy Chirikas from the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, and Tracy on the family front. Can you talk about how these meetings may be beneficial as families work together to address substance use and misuse issues?
Well, I think, thank you, number one. But number two, families can't help it because we are programmed from the birth of our children to basically become codependent on our children. We are there to supply their needs and help them fly in life. And the same is true when our loved one struggles with substance use disorder. We come alongside and we become just as sick as our loved one. And so Smart Recovery for Family and Friends is really a compilation between two programs. One is the SMART Recovery Program, and one is the CRAFT, which stands for Community Reinforcement and Family Training. So SMART is skill-based, whereas CRAFT is evidence-based. And really what it's teaching us as family members is how to support our loved one in a healthy way. That's number one, because we've become very unhealthy. We become just as sick as our loved ones. We will clean up their messes. We will quickly, create all of this chaos so that others aren't pointing the finger because of shame and stigma, especially on that family side. So we really have a lot of work to do on our family side, the family and friends side, to be really good support team members of our loved ones. It is a family disease. It is not just, that individual. We all have things to learn about ourselves and collectively as groups. We follow the same 4-point system that Angela just mentioned. Ours just may look a little differently. Our urge to control the situation, for example, because that is the biggest thing in a family and friends. We want to control the outcome, which really is manipulative behavior. So we have to unlearn some of these same traits that our loved ones struggle with. We meet every Thursday night from 7 to 8:30. And really, as Angela said, it's addictive behavior. It's not just limited to substances. And, I think they can lead to substances. Sure. But I think one of the things we need to remember, and really now that we're kind of post-COVID, but we're moving into the Omicron environment, a lot of unhealthy coping mechanisms came about for all individuals in society. And I believe all individuals can benefit from just unlearning some of those unhealthy coping strategies that we navigated toward.
Yeah. Oh, please, Angela. Yeah.
I was going to say, sometimes it can be like that game whack-a-mole, you knock one thing down and another one pops up. But I had the pleasure of taking the family and friends training too. And I thought it was pretty amazing, because one of the things I've never really been a huge fan of, and Kraft kind of talks about this a little bit, is the idea of like tough love. If it's a medical condition, I don't see how loving people less or pushing them away is going to help, right? And so I love that this program doesn't talk about tough love, but it talks about love and limits. And I can see how supporting people, like, I love you, but I have to set limits for me and for you. And that just really made a whole lot of sense to me.
And we're joined by Tracy Chirikas and Angela Spino-Bogota on the Megacast. They are both with the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. And so we talked in December before the new year about how the holidays can impact addiction and can impact the ways that we interact with those that may be dealing with substance misuse or substance abuse. As we're in the winter months, this time of the year in our area, especially given the weather, given the conditions outside, can also have an impact on mental health and certainly as well on substance use and misuse. What are some of the ways that we see at this time of the year that people that may be battling addictions may struggle more so than, or differently, it's probably a better way to put it, than in other times of the year where it's nicer outside or there's more activities to be done? And what can be done from the level of friends and family and coworkers and other people in their lives to help them weather this time of the year that can often be just as triggering as the few weeks of the holidays?
Right. Well, I think it's the weather. Number one, as you said, limited days where there are sunshine. We desperately need sunshine and to get outside and get that fresh air to help our serotonin levels and our dopamine levels. But some people do struggle with seasonal dissociative disorder, right? Where the lack sun. Maybe that's as simple as, getting some kind of lamps and indirect lighting. But plugging into these support groups are so helpful because it's peer-led and peers gathering together to help one another, lift one another, and guide them through these situations that we're all confronted with time to time.
Tracy, Angela, just another couple of minutes with the both of you before we'll say goodbye today. At this time, is there anything else that we should be keeping in mind now that we're in the new year and as we're going through the winter in terms of how we can help people in our lives that may be dealing with substance misuse, addiction, or if we are dealing with those issues ourselves?
Yeah, I would second what Tracy said when it comes to seasonal depression. I think that is a very real thing. I know I suffer from it. So I would also say keep an eye out for isolation. You know, I always say addiction at the core of it really feeds it with isolation, and recovery is really all about connection. So, if you see one of your family members or friends slipping away, make that extra phone call, make that extra text, show up at their house, be there for them. And it's better to ask a question and be able to help someone than not ask the question and find out later that person was in distress. So sometimes they can be uncomfortable and difficult conversations, but we'd rather have those than not show up for the people that we love.
Tracy, anything else?
No, I completely agree with what Angela said, and we are just a phone call away.
Well, we appreciate both of you. Appreciate your time and the information, as well as all the helpful advice for people that may be dealing with addiction or those that may be helping a loved one through addiction as well. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well. You can learn more information about how you can get involved with the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, as well as how you can get access to their resources, including those very helpful programs that they have ongoing for those battling addiction, as well as their families, friends, and others, by visiting the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities website at achcmi.org. That is achcmi.org. We're going to take one final break. On the other side, we will be joined by MLive Media Group Red Wings hockey beat writer Ansar Khan to talk about the young team, the struggling team, but a team with a lot of promise. We'll talk about all things Red Wings hockey. Coming up next, you're watching and listening to the Megacast.
To Sofia and Gabriel, even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes. They stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. for help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM. Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. You can learn more information about our show and find all of our episodes and every interview on demand by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/Megacast. Joining us now is Ansar Khan. He's with MLive Media Group, the Red Wings hockey beat writer, joining us once again on the Megacast as we're about at the halfway point of the 2021-2022 season, with the Detroit Red Wings currently in 9th place in the Eastern Conference. Ansar, welcome into the show. And as we start off, can you appraise the Red Wings season so far? Obviously, it's still very much in the infancy of the rebuild of this team, but they're close to a playoff position, being currently in 9th place. They got a lot of promise in their young guys. How would you appraise so far the performance of this Detroit Red Wings team in 2022?
Well, overall, I think they have to be pleased with the progress. They have taken a fairly significant step here. Going back just 2 years ago, they were by far the worst team in the league in a historically bad season for them. So they have come a long ways in 2 years. They showed some progress last year, moved up a couple of notches in the standings, and this year even more so. But saying that too, there is still a lot of room for improvement and still some troubling areas. Namely their defensive play, which was supposed to be a strong point for them heading into the season, has actually regressed. They're giving up more goals this year so far than they did last year. And the road record, they continue to struggle on the road. They have they've played fairly well at home. They have the biggest differential in the league as far as home and road points percentage. So those two areas right there, I think getting the goals against down and just improving a little bit on the road would be focuses for this team as they approach the midway point of the season.
Yeah, I mean, they're in 9th place right now. There's a lot of positives, as you identified, with this team going forward, especially with their youth, and they're going to continue to develop this team. And being in 9th place about halfway through the season, you continue to surge a little bit. You have those moments where you have a hot streak. You continue to improve on some of those negatives, particularly on the defensive end. All of a sudden, you could see this team sneak into the playoffs as an 8th seed. Maybe they overachieve as a 7 seed. But you're going to need to keep your team healthy as well with that. And of course, a few nights ago, Dylan Larkin had left the game against the Anaheim Ducks with what was identified as an upper body injury. Do you know exactly what the injury is, or at the very least, how long the team expects to be without their captain?
Yeah, actually, according to Jeff Blashill yesterday, it's not that bad. He described it as a day-to-day injury, and that Larkin might actually return tomorrow at home against Winnipeg. So looks like they caught a break there. The other significant injury that they've dealt with all season Jacob Verana, who injured his shoulder in training camp, or re-aggravated an older shoulder injury in training camp and then had surgery on it, has been skating. He isn't shooting yet, but he seems to be making decent progress, and they're hoping that he can return maybe in about a month or maybe 4 to 6 weeks, sometime in February is what they're hoping for. But it does look like they will get him back this season, and that certainly will provide a nice offensive boost.
We're joined by Ansar Khan, Red Wings beat writer with MLive Media Group, joining us on the Megacast. You can read all of his articles and keep up to date on everything going on with Red Wings hockey by visiting mlive.com and clicking on their additional links for Red Wings hockey. And so, as I've mentioned multiple times, as you've touched on already, the promise with this team is mostly centered in its youth. Some great performances already this year for the rookies, particularly Lucas Raymond and Moritz Seider, but there's also a lot of promise with other young guys, such as goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic. I apologize, he is not a rookie. Can you talk about the growth of these three players in particular, and where we could potentially see them hitting that rookie wall that often happens, where you have a rush of performance for guys that have a lot of promise to come in and they play some great hockey, but eventually they kind of taper off? Where do you expect that to happen with these three key young players on this roster?
Yeah, those three players, especially Seider and Raymond, really are the main reason why this team's taken a jump this season. With Seider especially, he's been very consistent, very impressive, and maybe not as much of a surprise because he is a little bit older. He was drafted in 2019. Had a good first season in Grand Rapids, and then during the pandemic, he was exceptional in the Swedish Hockey League, was Defenseman of the Year there. So they kind of expected going into this season good things from him. But even saying that, he's certainly, I think, exceeded expectations, particularly in the offensive end. He's providing more offense with assists than I think that the team imagined, and he's been solid defensively, logging a lot of minutes, and he's doing that as kind of the anchor really on the blue line. Raymond is the bigger surprise. I don't think they expected, certainly didn't expect him to be this productive this soon. And he was a guy that they really had targeted to play in Grand Rapids this season to get some more development time, and then maybe join the team midway through the season or even next season. But he played so well in training camp that he forced his way onto the team, and he's been an ideal fit on that top line with Larkin and Bertuzzi. Now, in Raymond's case, you can say he's sort of hit a bit of a wall. He's gone, 10, 12 games without a goal, but he is still producing some assists and contributing that way. So I think you're seeing a bit of a slowdown with his game, but Seider, not so much. I don't think there's as much of a concern there with him. Now with the other guy you mentioned, Nedeljkovic, had a strong performance last night. Really stole them a point with, I believe, a 37 save performance against the Sharks. Yeah. He's even though he qualifies as a rookie because he didn't play 25 games last year during the abbreviated season. He obviously is not new to this. He finished third in Calder Trophy balloting last year with Carolina. Had a strong, what was a rookie season as well last year. It's kind of one of those fluke things because of the abbreviated season that he still qualifies as a rookie this year. But certainly he proved himself last year, and the question mark was coming to this season, can he repeat that, or is he just a one-year wonder? And he's shown that he's not, that he is definitely a good NHL goalie. And, he replaces Jonathan Bernier, who played well for them the past couple of years and has done really a superb job.
We're joined by Ansar Khan. I'm live Red Wings hockey beat writer on the Megacast, and Ansar, just yesterday, the announcement was made by the Red Wings that they are bringing Nick Lidstrom back into the organization. He'll be serving as their VP of hockey operations. Obviously, there's that great connection there. He's a former captain of the Red Wings. He's a Red Wings legend. He will be. He will always be highly regarded among the fan base, so it's going to be well received. But from an operational standpoint, what led to the decision by Steve Yzerman and by the Red Wings organization to hire Nick Lidstrom in this important role in the front office?
Yeah, no, it was a tremendous hire, really. I think a lot of times when a franchise brings back a legendary player, there's sometimes skepticism, especially one who doesn't have any front office experience, as just bringing in a name. But that's not the case with Lidstrom. He's always been very well respected. Just not only for his accomplishments as a 7-time Norris Trophy winner, the Conn Smythe Trophy winner, as playoff MVP, former captain, the guy who succeeded Steve Yzerman as captain. But he's always been very cerebral. Just as I'm sure you're aware, the teammates way back in the day nicknamed him the perfect human. Just not only for his on-ice performance, but the way he carries himself off the ice. And he's a guy that even Ken Holland, for many years, leaned on him for advice as far as player moves at the trade deadline, free agency moves. They would typically, talk to Lidstrom and get his input because they respected his opinion and his knowledge so much. So it really, it was kind of a no-brainer for Steve Yzerman to bring him into the organization. It was just a question of when Lidstrom felt that, he wanted to get back into the game on a full-time basis. He had been doing a little bit of scouting in Sweden for the Red Wings, but not to this level of involvement that he will be in. He'll be involved in all aspects of hockey operations in his new job.
So, Ansar, lastly, last week Saturday, the Red Wings radio broadcast made history as Red Wings digital reporter Daniela Bruce filled in the color commentator position for Paul Woods on the radio broadcast, becoming the first woman to fill that role on a Red Wings broadcast. Being that you're in Red Wings circles, I'm sure you've been around Daniela and have been speaking with her regularly about the Red Wings and in passing. Can you talk about that historic moment of her being on the Red Wings broadcast, being the first woman to be filling in that role, and as well as just her involvement with the Detroit Red Wings organization as a member of the media covering this Red Wings team in what is usually such a men's club of reporters?
Yeah, no, it was tremendous opportunity. Very good for the Red Wings to give her that opportunity. Daniela's been the host of the show that they do between periods and pregame analysis on the scoreboard at the arena. Does a great job with that, and there was really never any question that she would be a real good fill-in for Paul Woods during that 3-game West Coast trip. No, it was tremendous. She has great knowledge of the team and the game and conveys it real well. And I think it was really, like I said, a good thing for the Red Wings to give her that opportunity. And she was just a natural at it.
Yeah, she did an excellent job. I listened to the radio broadcast, and it goes to show once again that we have such great reporters here in the Detroit area reporting for our sports teams, and that includes a number of excellent women as well that are reporting on these teams and are heavily involved with these teams. Daniela did a fantastic job on that radio broadcast on Saturday night, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot more of her in the future covering Red Wings hockey and the NHL as well as other sports in Detroit and around the U.S. Ansar, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, glad to be with you.
Appreciate it. You can read all of his articles on mlive.com by going to their sports section. Again, we've been joined by Ansar Khan, Red Wings beat writer with MLive Media Group. Big thank you to him, as well as Tracy Chirikas and Angela Spino-Bogota from the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities for joining us on the show. Dave Dulio from Oakland University, Dewey Steffen from Great Lakes Wealth, as well as Dr. Russell Faust from the Oakland County Health Division joining us on today's edition of the show. You can watch all of our full episodes and interviews on demand on civiccentertv.com/megacast and find all the information you need to know as we continue to keep you updated on COVID-19 by going to our coronavirus website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Big thank you to our technical producer, Calvin Brown, joining me in the studio each and every day for our 2-hour show. Jared Clark over at the offices of My Michigan TV in Troy, our Zoom producer. Larry Nyland, the king of television himself, our producer, booking all of our guests, getting them all ready, getting us ready each and every day for the show. And Maddie Mustian out at Master Control, getting us both on and off the air today. Coming up next on My Michigan TV, it's Steve Lato Live, and we'll be back at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Keeping Greater West Bloomfield connected during the coronavirus pandemic. 89.3 WBLD, Orchard Lake, West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Sylvan Lake, 89.3 Lakes FM.
Turned cartwheels across the floor. I was feeling kind of seasick. The crowd called out for more. The room was humming harder as the ceiling flew away. At first just ghostly, turn